It was a cold and lonely night when Ethan Cole stepped out of his small apartment to buy dinner. The city was quiet, almost too quiet for a Friday. A light drizzle fell from the gray sky, making the streets shine under the streetlights. Ethan pulled his jacket tighter and sighed. He had been working late again, another 12-hour shift at the factory, another night eating cheap food alone. He told himself he just needed something warm to eat and then some sleep. Nothing more. The little food corner at the end of Main Street was usually open until midnight. It sold noodles, sandwiches, and hot soup. Ethan liked it because the owner never asked too many questions. But tonight, when he turned the corner, something strange caught his eye. The lights from the diner flickered, dimming for a second before glowing bright again, and in the distance and above the buildings, he saw lights in the sky. Not airplane lights. Not stars. They were blue, moving fast and completely silent. He stopped walking and stared. The light spun in a slow circle, then disappeared behind a thick cloud. A low hum followed, deep and heavy like thunder underwater. The hairs on his arms stood up. Probably just drones, he muttered to himself, trying to sound calm. But something inside him said it wasn't drones. It was something else, something alive. When he reached the diner, he saw the power was gone. The whole block was dark. The air felt different, sharp, electric. He looked through the diner's window and saw nobody inside. Weird, he whispered. Then he heard it, a soft sound behind the building. A sound like someone crying. Ethan froze. The sound came again, quiet sobs, almost like a child. He walked slowly toward the alley behind the diner, his heart beating faster. The light from his phone barely cut through the mist. He expected to find a person, maybe a lost child or a hurt animal, but what he found made his breath stop. In the corner of the alley was a glowing object, a small pod, cracked open like an egg. It was about the size of a car door, with strange symbols carved along the edges. The inside pulsed with faint blue light. And there, lying beside it, was a girl, or something that looked like a girl. She was curled up, trembling. Her skin was pale silver, glowing slightly, and her hair shimmered like strands of light. She looked young, almost human, but not quite. Her eyes were closed, and she was whispering something in a language Ethan couldn't understand. For a moment, he just stood there, frozen between fear and wonder. Then her eyes opened, bright crystal blue, full of tears. She looked straight at him and tried to speak. Her voice was weak, broken. "Help me!" Ethan stepped back in shock. His mind raced. Was this a dream? Some movie scene? But the fear in her voice was real. She reached a hand toward him, her fingers trembling. Without thinking, Ethan dropped to his knees and helped her sit up. Her skin felt warm, almost too warm, like she was burning inside. Hey, it's okay," he said softly. "I'm not gonna hurt you." She looked at him with confusion, her lips shaking. "No, hurt," she repeated slowly. Then she pointed at the sky. "They come back." Ethan looked up but saw nothing except clouds. The air was quiet again, but his instincts screamed that something was wrong. "All right," he said. "We need to get you out of here." He glanced at the strange pod, and it was cracked and sparking. Whatever it was, it had fallen hard. He didn't know what to do with it, so he helped her stand. She was weak and leaned on him, her body trembling like she hadn't eaten in days. He guided her to his old car parked nearby and gently put her in the passenger seat. "Don't worry," he said, trying to sound calm even though his heart was racing. "I'll take you somewhere safe." As he started the engine, he looked once more at the alley. The pod flickered again, and then it went dark. He drove off, the tires splashing through puddles, his mind spinning with questions he couldn't answer. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why did she look so afraid? Halfway home, Ethan glanced at her. She was staring out the window, her glowing eyes reflecting the streetlights. For the first time, he noticed she had tears on her face. Real tears. She whispered something softly, almost like a prayer, but he couldn't understand it. The rain grew heavier. Ethan turned down a quiet street leading to his apartment. That's when he saw the headlights behind him. A black van, no logo, no license plate he could read. It stayed just far enough not to look suspicious, but close enough to make his stomach twist. He gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Hang on," he muttered. The girl turned her head slowly toward him. Her voice was small, trembling, but clear. "They'd found me." Ethan's blood ran cold. He pressed the gas pedal harder, the car speeding through the empty road as the black van followed, its lights growing brighter in the rearview mirror. And that's how it began. Ethan Cole went out that night just to buy dinner, but instead he brought home something that would change not only his life, but the fate of the entire world. The rain stopped by the time Ethan reached his apartment. The night air was heavy, thick with the smell of wet concrete and metal. He parked his car in the back alley far from the main road. The black van had turned away a few streets earlier, but Ethan still felt uneasy. Every shadow looked alive. Every sound made him glance over his shoulder. The girl was still in the passenger seat, silent, her bright eyes staring at the raindrops on the glass. The faint blue glow from her skin had dimmed, but she was breathing softly, almost asleep. Ethan hesitated for a moment, wondering if bringing her home was a mistake. But he couldn't leave her out there, not when she looked so lost and scared. He helped her out of the car. She walked slowly, her bare feet touching the cold ground. She looked up at the building, an old, cracked apartment complex, and tilted her head as if trying to understand what it was. When they entered, Ethan turned off most of the lights. He didn't want the neighbors to see her. Inside, she stood quietly in the middle of his small living room, her eyes moving from the couch to the TV, to the fridge humming in the corner. Everything seemed strange to her. She touched the couch with her fingertips, then flinched when the fabric sank under her hand. Ethan noticed the small burns and bruises on her arms. She looked fragile, but her presence filled the room with something he couldn't explain, like standing near lightning before it strikes. Sit, Ethan said softly, pointing to the couch. She hesitated, then slowly sat down. Her silver hair caught the dim light glowing faintly. He opened a can of soup and warmed it on the stove. The smell filled the small room, warm and familiar. When he brought it to her, she looked at the bowl like it was something sacred. She touched the spoon awkwardly at first and then tasted it. Her eyes widened. A tear rolled down her cheek. She whispered, "Warm," as if the word itself was new to her. Ethan sat across from her, trying to smile. "Yeah," he said. "It's just soup. You like it?" She nodded slowly, still eating in small, careful bites. When she finished, she set the bowl down gently as if afraid to break it. Then she pointed to herself. "Elira," she said. Her voice was soft, musical. "Elira," Ethan repeated. "That's your name?" She nodded again, her eyes brightening a little. Then she pointed at him. "Ethan," he said, tapping his chest. "Ethan Cole." She repeated it. Then, slowly, smiling for the first time. For a moment, the fear between them faded, but the peace didn't last long. As Ethan cleaned up the table, he noticed her touching the metal spoon. Her fingers glowed faintly and the metal bent, twisting like it was soft clay. His eyes widened. She noticed his shock and quickly pulled her hand back, frightened. No harm," she said quickly, her voice trembling. "It's okay," Ethan said, raising his hands. "You're okay." He sat down again, trying to understand what he just saw. "You're not human, are you?" Elira looked down at her hands, silent for a long moment. Then she whispered, "I am from Varnus." "Varnus," Ethan repeated. "Is that a place?" She pointed toward the sky through the window. "Far, far above. I run away. Bad people," Ethan frowned. "Who's after you?" She hesitated, then her voice broke as she said, "Hunters. They take all. My ship." She gestured helplessly as if searching for words. "Crash." Ethan's mind raced. None of this made sense, yet every word she said sounded true. He remembered the strange pod, the lights, the van that followed him. Maybe she really was from another world. Suddenly, Elira's eyes flickered bright blue. She gasped and grabbed his hand. A burning pain shot through his skin. He had touched the hot stove earlier without noticing. The burn mark vanished before his eyes. He pulled his hand back in shock. "You healed me," he whispered. Elira looked weak, her glow fading again. "Small power," she said. "Not for long." Ethan stared at his hand, speechless. She wasn't lying. Whatever she was, she needed help. Then came the knock. 3 sharp, slow knocks on the door. Elira froze. Her eyes widened in terror. Ethan motioned for her to stay quiet. He peeked through the small peephole. 2 men in dark suits stood outside. One held a badge. The other carried a small black device. "Mr. Cole," one of them called through the door. "Calm and professional. We'd like to ask you some questions about the lights seen in this area last night." Ethan's throat went dry. He looked back at Elira. She was trembling, whispering, "Hunters. He forced a smile, trying to sound casual as he called out, "I didn't see anything. Just lightning, maybe." The voice outside replied smoothly, "That's all right, sir. We just need a moment of your time." The black device in the agent's hand blinked red. Elira's glow flickered. Ethan realized it was detecting her. He whispered urgently, "Stay down." She pressed her hands together, her eyes closing in concentration. The lights in the apartment flickered once, then the device outside went silent. After a few tense moments, one of the men said, "Thank you for your time. Mr. Cole, please contact us if you remember anything unusual." Their footsteps faded down the hall. Ethan exhaled shakily. He turned to Elira, who was breathing hard, exhausted. "Who were they?" he asked. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Not your people. Barnes, soldiers. They find me." Ethan stared at the door, a chill running through him. Those men weren't from the government, they were something else. Something worse, and somewhere deep inside, Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The morning light crept through Ethan's curtains, pale and weak after a sleepless night. He sat on the couch, staring at the half-empty coffee mug in his hands. Elira was asleep in the bedroom, breathing softly. The strange glow on her skin had faded now, leaving her looking almost human. Almost, but Ethan's mind was spinning. Who were those men last night, and how did they find his address so fast? Outside, the city was waking up. Cars moved along the streets. People went to work like any normal day. But for Ethan, nothing was normal anymore. Every sound felt like a warning. Every face on the street looked suspicious. He got up and looked through the blinds. Across the road, a black car was parked. Two men sat inside, pretending to read newspapers. Ethan's stomach twisted. They were watching him. He was sure of it. He turned back toward the room where Elira slept. The girl from the stars, fragile and glowing, had somehow dragged him into something much bigger than he could understand. He didn't know whether to trust her or fear her, but when he looked at her face, peaceful and childlike, he couldn't turn her away. Suddenly, there was a soft knock on the door again. 3 times. Slow and steady. Ethan froze. His pulse quickened. He quietly walked to the door and looked through the peephole. The same 2 agents from last night. They wore the same black suits, clean and perfect, but their expressions were colder now. One of them smiled faintly, though his eyes did not. Ethan forced himself to open the door halfway. "You again?" he said, trying to sound annoyed but calm. "Good morning, Mr. Cole," the taller agent said. "We're following up on last night's incident. We received reports of unusual energy readings in this area." "Energy readings?" Ethan repeated, pretending to be confused. "Look, I told you, I didn't see anything. Probably just some power line problem." The shorter agent stepped forward. His eyes were sharp and colorless, like glass. "May we come in?" Ethan hesitated. "I don't think," the tall agent smiled again. "We only need 5 minutes of your time. We can leave after that." Ethan opened the door slightly wider, hiding his panic. "Fine, 5 minutes." As they entered, Elira's eyes snapped open in the bedroom. She could feel their presence, cold, unnatural, like poison in the air. She pressed her hands together and whispered something in her language. Meanwhile, the agents looked around the small apartment. One took out a small black device again, round and glowing faintly red. It hummed softly as he moved it across the room. Ethan tried to act casual. "So what's this about again?" The shorter agent answered without looking at him. "We're looking for a piece of technology. It fell somewhere near this block last night. Very dangerous, Mr. Cole. You'd be helping your country if you told us anything." Ethan forced a laugh. "Technology? Like what, a drone?" The agent stopped scanning and looked at him. "Something much more valuable." The device beeped, faintly at first, then louder, near the bedroom door. Ethan's heart dropped. The tall agent's eyes narrowed. "What's in there?" "My room," Ethan said quickly. "Just a mess. You know how bachelors live." The shorter man moved toward the door. "May we check?" Before Ethan could answer, the lights flickered. The red glow on the scanner dimmed and went out. The whole room seemed to shake slightly, then calm again. The agents froze. "Power surge?" the tall one said, frowning. Ethan shrugged, hiding his fear. "This building's old. Happens all the time." The agents exchanged a glance. After a moment, the shorter one put the scanner away. "If you notice anything unusual, Mr. Cole, contact us immediately. For your safety." They left as quietly as they came. Ethan locked the door behind them and leaned against it, breathing hard. He ran to the bedroom. Elira was sitting on the floor, her hands shaking, eyes glowing faintly. "You stopped it," Ethan said, amazed. "You blocked the signal." She nodded weakly. "Short time only. They find again soon." Ethan knelt beside her. "Who are they, Elira?" "They said they're from the government," she shook her head. "Not human. Hunters from Varnus. Wear human skin." Her voice cracked with fear. "They find me to silence truth." Ethan's heart pounded. "Truth? What truth?" She looked at him with deep sadness. "Your world. Not alone. My people come long ago. Some stay, some hide. Some rule from shadows. They control everything." Ethan stared at her, disbelief and fear mixing inside him. "You mean aliens already live here?" Elira nodded. "Yes, long time. But they not help you. They want control." Ethan rubbed his face, trying to process it all. Everything she said sounded impossible. Yet last night she healed his burn, and this morning she disabled an alien device with her mind. The impossible was already happening. He walked to the window again. The black car was still there. The men inside were staring directly at his building now. "They know," Ethan whispered. "We can't stay here." Elira stood, still weak, but her eyes burned with determination. "Then we go. I can hide energy. But not long." Ethan packed a small bag, money, food, car keys. As they prepared to leave, Elira touched the window and whispered something. For a second, the glass shimmered like water. Ethan blinked. "What did you do?" She smiled faintly. "They not see us go." He opened the door carefully. The hallway was empty. Together, they stepped into the cold daylight. The city around them moved like nothing was wrong. Cars, people, noise. But Ethan knew the truth now. Something terrible was coming, and the girl from the stars was the only one who could stop it. The city was waking up, but Ethan's world had already changed forever. He gripped the steering wheel tightly as his old car rumbled through narrow streets. Beside him, Elira sat quietly, her silver hair tucked under a hooded sweatshirt he had given her. From a distance, she looked human, but her glowing blue eyes still shimmered faintly in the shadow of the hood. Ethan's heart was still racing from the morning encounter. Those agents were not government men. They were something else, something alien. He could feel their eyes even when they weren't there. Every car behind him made him nervous. Every shadow seemed alive. They drove past the city center where neon signs flickered and people hurried to work, unaware that something unearthly was happening among them. Elira stared out the window, fascinated and sad. "Your world, so loud," she whispered softly, "so full of life." But no peace. Ethan glanced at her. "You talk like you've seen this before." "I see many worlds," she replied. "Varnus, my home, once bright like yours. But then the hunters came. They changed everything," he frowned. "Hunters? The ones after you?" She nodded. "They serve the Dominion, a council of my kind who seek to rule. They see humans as weak, easy to control. Long ago they made secret deals here." "Deals? With who?" Ethan asked. She hesitated. "Your leaders long ago. Trade of power for technology. But it broke. They betrayed us." "I carry proof." Ethan looked at her, stunned. "Proof? You mean—" Before he could finish, a black van sped past them in the mirror. It slowed, matching their speed. His heart dropped. "They found us." Elira turned, her glowing eyes narrowing. "Drive fast!" Ethan slammed the gas pedal. The tires screeched as the car shot forward through the busy street. The van accelerated too, weaving between vehicles. People shouted and horns blared as Ethan swerved through traffic. "Who are these things?" he shouted. "Hunters in human shell," Elira said calmly, though her voice trembled. "They track my energy. I can hide it for short time, but not while afraid. Then don't be afraid." Ethan yelled, turning sharply onto a narrow alley. The car bounced over potholes. Trash cans crashed behind them as the van followed. Elira pressed her hand to the dashboard. Her eyes glowed brighter, and for a moment the car's engine roared louder, smoother. It was like she gave it new life. Ethan grinned nervously. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." The van's headlights flashed behind them, blinding bright. Then something even stranger happened. A metal drone shot out from the van's roof, spinning in the air like a predator. Its red lens locked onto them. Ethan's stomach dropped. "What the hell is that thing?" Elira turned to the back window. "Hunter eye," she said. "Machine for tracking and killing. The drone fired a burst of blue light. It hit a car beside them, sending sparks into the air. People screamed as vehicles swerved. Ethan clenched the wheel, pushing the car harder. We can't outrun that thing. Elira's breathing quickened. I can stop it. Maybe. She rolled down the window and climbed halfway out despite Ethan's shouts. Wind rushed through her hair, glowing strands whipping like silver fire. She lifted her hand, her palm glowing with blue energy. The drone shot again. The beam grazed the car, scorching the trunk. Elira cried out but didn't stop. The air around her shimmered. Then, with a sound like thunder, a pulse of blue light exploded from her hand. The drone froze mid-air, its red light flickering, then shattered into pieces, raining metal sparks over the street. The shockwave blew through the alley and Ethan fought to keep control of the car. When the dust cleared, Elira slumped back into her seat, breathing heavily. Her glow faded. Power. Gone for now, she whispered weakly. Ethan looked at her, half terrified, half amazed. You just blew that thing up. How did you even do that? She smiled faintly, her eyes half closed. Energy from my world. I share it with you now, but I am tired. Ethan drove out of the alley and headed toward the old highway leading out of town. His hands were shaking. We need somewhere safe, he muttered. Somewhere no one can find us. Elira opened her eyes slightly. North, there is place, hidden long ago by humans who knew the stars. Old base, you call it? Bunker, Ethan nodded. All right, we'll go there. They drove in silence for a while, the city lights fading behind them. The road stretched long and empty ahead, cutting through fog and forest. Elira leaned her head against the window. Ethan, she whispered softly. Why help me? He thought for a long moment. Because when I found you, you looked scared. Like me, and because you didn't ask to be here. You just wanted to survive, she smiled faintly. You are kind. Most humans fear what they don't know. Ethan chuckled quietly. Oh, I'm terrified. Then just as they reached the highway exit, Elira's eyes widened in alarm. She grabbed his arm. Stop! Ethan slammed the brakes. The car screeched to a halt. Ahead of them, the road shimmered. A tall figure stood in the middle of it, dressed in black, its eyes glowing red. Behind it, two more figures stepped out from the fog, their faces blank, their movements unnatural. They found us again, Ethan whispered. Elira's voice was trembling but steady. No, Ethan. These not hunters. These are shadows. They come before war. The figure raised its hand, light crackled around it like lightning. Ethan's heart pounded as he whispered, What do we do now? Elira looked at him, her voice soft but firm. Run and don't stop. The forest was dark and endless. Ethan's car bounced over cracked dirt roads, its headlights slicing through fog and shadow. Behind them, the faint red glow of the hunter's energy beam still burned in the sky, a reminder that they were being hunted across worlds. Elira sat beside him, pale and silent, clutching her arm where the last blast had grazed her. Her glow was fading fast. Ethan glanced at her. We're almost there. You said there's a base? She nodded weakly. Yes, humans built it after first contact. My mother helped them hide it. Ethan's eyes widened. Your mother was here? On Earth? Elira smiled faintly. Long ago. She tried to warn your people about the Dominion, but no one listened. They reached a narrow path leading deeper into the woods. Trees arched overhead like giant ribs, blocking out the moonlight. The air grew colder. Finally, they saw it. A metal door buried under moss and stone, half forgotten by time. A rusty sign above it read, U.S. Military Research Site, closed since 1978. Ethan parked the car behind some trees. This it? Yes, Elira said softly. The place of secrets. He helped her out of the car, her steps weak but determined. Together, they pushed open the heavy metal door. It groaned loudly, echoing through the tunnel inside. A stale smell of rust and dust filled the air. They stepped into the darkness. Ethan turned on his phone's flashlight, the beam catching rows of old machinery, broken monitors, and forgotten crates covered in cobwebs. It looked like no one had entered in decades. This place gives me the creeps, he muttered. Elira touched the wall gently. Her fingertips glowed, and for a moment blue veins of light spread across the metal, awakening something old. The lights in the corridor flickered to life one by one, humming softly. Ethan stared in awe. How did you do that? This base was built with my people's help, she said. The walls still remember our touch. They walked deeper until they reached a large control room. Screens lined the walls, most cracked and dark. On the main table lay stacks of dusty files. Ethan picked one up and blew the dust off. The label read, Project Starlink, Confidential. He opened it. Inside were faded photographs, images of strange metallic crafts hovering above desert skies, glowing symbols that looked just like the ones on Elira's broken pod, and old black and white photos of humans shaking hands with tall, slender beings with silver eyes. Ethan's voice trembled. So it's true. We did meet your kind before. Elira nodded slowly. Yes, but not all came in peace. My mother came to protect this world. Others came to use it. He flipped to another page. It was a handwritten note dated June 4th, 1977. If contact fails, shut the program. The Dominion cannot be trusted. Their gift is poison in disguise. Ethan's stomach sank. They warned us. And we ignored it. Suddenly, a faint metallic sound echoed through the hallway, come like footsteps. Elira's head snapped toward the door. They found us. Ethan grabbed a metal rod from the floor and stood ready. We can fight, Elira shook her head. No, run deeper. They hurried through the back tunnels, the old lights flickering overhead. The sound grew closer, mechanical, steady, inhuman. They reached a storage room filled with old crates and power cables. Elira stopped, breathing heavily. Wait, she said. Here. She knelt by the wall and touched a panel that looked solid. The surface shimmered, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a small sphere, smooth and glowing faintly. Ethan frowned. What is that? Memory core, she said. My mother left it. It holds the truth. About the Dominion, about Varnus, about Earth. Before Ethan could respond, the metal door burst open. A figure stepped in. One of the hunters, tall and dark. Its human disguise half burned away, revealing smooth gray skin and eyes like molten steel. It spoke with a voice that sounded like static. Return the core, child of Varnus. Ethan raised the metal rod. You want her, you go through me. The hunter tilted its head. You protect her? Foolish human. It moved fast, went impossibly fast. The rod was knocked from Ethan's hands and he hit the wall hard. Pain exploded in his chest, Elira screamed. Her eyes blazed blue as she raised her hand. Energy erupted from her palm, slamming the hunter into the wall. The creature roared, the air crackling with power. But Elira was too weak to keep it up. Her glow flickered like a dying flame. Ethan struggled to his feet, blood on his lips. He grabbed a cable from the floor, and its end sparking with exposed wires, and jammed it into the hunter's back. Electricity surged. The creature screamed, convulsed, and collapsed in a burst of smoke. Ethan gasped for breath. You okay? Elira nodded weakly. You saved me, he smiled faintly. Guess we're even now. She looked at the memory core glowing in her hands. We must leave. Others will come. As they climbed back to the surface, Ethan noticed an old photograph lying on the ground. He picked it up. His heart stopped. It was his father, younger in uniform, standing with a group of scientists beside the same alien ship Elira's pod resembled. On the back, in his father's handwriting, were the words, If you ever find them again, protect the one with the blue light. She will save us all. Ethan's eyes burned with disbelief and realization. My father. He knew. Elira touched his arm gently. Then you were meant to find me. As they stepped outside, the night air was colder than before. The forest was silent, too silent. Above them, faint lights shimmered across the clouds like ripples of fire. Elira stared upward, her expression dark. They are opening the gate. The war begins soon. Ethan looked at her, gripping the photo tightly. Then we stop them. Whatever it takes. The stars above flickered, and one of them blinked red. The night sky was no longer silent. It shimmered with strange colors, bands of red, blue, and silver twisting together like a storm made of light. Ethan and Elira stood at the edge of the forest, watching as the stars above seemed to move, forming patterns that no human telescope had ever recorded. It was beautiful and terrifying. Elira's voice was quiet, almost a whisper. They have opened the gate. Ethan looked up, shielding his eyes. The gate? You mean, she nodded slowly. A wormhole, a bridge between my world and yours. Once it is open, the Dominion will send their army through. He stared at the glowing sky. And Earth has no idea what's coming. Elira turned to him, her blue eyes dim with exhaustion. That is why we must stop it before dawn. After sunrise, it will be too late. They had spent hours hiding in the woods near an abandoned communication tower, one of the last active structures connected to the old Starlink base. Ethan had managed to restart its power generator using the tools from his car. The place hummed weakly like a dying machine trying to breathe again. "This thing can broadcast, right?" Ethan said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "You said we can send a message." "Yes," Alira replied, sitting beside the console. "If we can reach the outer satellites, they will echo my signal. My people who still resist the Dominion might hear it." Ethan frowned. "You think someone out there will help us?" Her voice softened. "Not help me, help you. Your world deserves a chance." He looked at her for a long moment. "You talk like you're not coming back." Alira didn't answer. Instead, she pressed her hand to the console. Her veins glowed faintly and the machines came to life. Static filled the air, followed by a soft blue hum. Ethan watched in awe. "You're incredible, you know that?" Alira smiled sadly. "On my world, I was only a scientist. I never wanted war. But war always finds the ones who seek peace." Outside, thunder rolled, but it wasn't from the clouds. A bright streak of light cut across the sky, followed by another and another. They weren't shooting stars. They were ships. Ethan's heart pounded. "They're here." The ground shook as a shockwave rolled through the forest. Trees cracked, birds fled, and the air filled with a high-pitched hum that made Ethan's teeth ache. He ran to the door, staring into the distance. In the sky, massive shapes began to appear, metallic silhouettes glowing with blue fire. Alira stood beside him, eyes glowing brighter. "They came faster than I thought. We must finish the signal." Ethan rushed back to the control panel, typing as fast as he could. "Just tell me what to do." "Redirect the antenna to 45 degrees north," she said quickly. "Then amplify the power by 10. He did as told, sparks flying from the old console. The lights flickered. Alira stepped into the center of the room, her entire body beginning to glow. The air around her shimmered with energy. "Alira, what are you doing?" "I must connect directly," she said. "Only my energy can reach that far." He grabbed her arm. "It's dangerous." She looked at him, her face calm but sad. "Ethan, my people call this the binding light. Once I begin, I cannot stop. But if it works, the gate will close." His throat tightened. "And if it doesn't?" She smiled softly. "Then I fade with the stars." Before he could stop her, she placed her hands on the transmitter. Blue lightning arced across the metal floor. The machines roared to life, shaking the entire building. Ethan shielded his face as blinding light filled the room. Outside, the sky split open, a massive circle of swirling energy forming above the clouds. Through it, dark ships emerged one by one, each larger than a skyscraper. The ground trembled as if the planet itself feared what was coming. Alira's voice echoed through the storm, not just in words but in feeling. "To all who hear me beyond the stars, when stop the Dominion. Protect this world. Protect them." The circle in the sky flickered. The alien ships wavered, their lights distorting. Ethan saw one of them twist in midair, collapsing into the portal like water down a drain. But the power was too much. The transmitter exploded in sparks. Alira screamed as light burst from her chest. Ethan ran to her, but the energy threw him back. The air was hot, blinding, electric. When he could see again, Alira was standing in the center of the room, glowing brighter than ever, her eyes pure light. "Alira!" He shouted. "Stop!" "You'll die!" Her voice came soft but steady. "Life ends, Ethan, but hope travels light years." A final wave of blue light burst from her body, racing into the sky. The wormhole flickered violently, then collapsed in on itself with a thunderous shockwave. The ships vanished. The storm ended. The world went quiet. Ethan crawled toward her through the smoke. She was kneeling now, her glow fading fast. He took her hand. It felt cold, almost weightless. "You did it," he whispered, his voice shaking. "You saved us." Alira smiled weakly. "No, we saved us." She looked up at the night sky one last time. "My mother said love is the light between worlds. Now, I understand." Her hand slipped from his. The glow vanished completely. Ethan held her in silence as the broken tower buzzed softly around them. Outside, the dawn began to rise, pale and golden, over a quiet, unknowing world, somewhere above where the stars burned faint and gentle again. A single streak of blue light crossed the morning sky. The world had returned to silence. For most people, it was just another morning. A new sunrise, soft clouds drifting across a blue sky. But for Ethan Cole, the world felt hollow. He stood alone in the ruins of the old communication tower, surrounded by the quiet hum of broken machines and ashes of light. The battle was over. The sky was calm again, and Elira was gone. He stared up at the heavens, his hands trembling. The sky was too peaceful now. No lights, no ships, no signs of the war that had nearly begun. Only faint streaks of blue shimmered among the clouds, fading slowly like forgotten memories. Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. "You did it, Elira. You really did it." He found her pendant lying near the wreckage, again a small silver disc etched with strange symbols. It still glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. He closed his hand around it and felt warmth spread through his fingers, the same warmth she had once given him. For a moment he thought he could still hear her voice, soft, distant, carried by the wind. Days passed. The government cleaned up the site, calling it an experimental satellite malfunction. Reporters spoke of an Aurora event seen across the world. No one mentioned alien ships. No one spoke of the gate that almost tore the sky open. The world forgot, because the world never knew. But Ethan remembered. He returned to his small apartment, now strangely empty. Her presence had filled the space. The glow, the quiet laughter, the soft curiosity in her eyes. Now all that was left were memories. He spent hours sitting by the window, staring at the night sky, waiting for a sign. One evening, he found something odd. On the table beside her pendant, his old radio flickered to life on its own. Static crackled for a few seconds, then a faint voice whispered through, "E." Then he froze. "Elira?" But the voice faded, leaving only silence. He waited for hours, hoping to hear it again, but nothing came. Weeks passed. Life returned to normal for everyone else. Ethan went back to work, though he barely spoke to anyone. The city moved on, but he couldn't. Every night he walked the same streets, the same ones where he had found her, half hoping, half afraid to see that glowing light again. One night, as he passed the old food corner where it had all begun, something strange happened. The sky above shimmered faintly, just like that first night. Blue light danced across the clouds and soft, gentle, alive. He stopped walking. His heart raced. No way. The air around him began to hum, low and melodic. The streetlights flickered and the puddles on the ground rippled like something unseen had touched them. Then in front of him a shape began to form, a column of light twisting slowly until it took the shape of a figure. When the glow faded, she was standing there, Elira, not the same as before, softer, more human. Her silver glow dimmed to a faint shimmer beneath her skin. Her eyes, still that beautiful blue, looked at him with warmth and quiet joy. She was wearing simple human clothes, jeans, a light jacket, and no shoes. Ethan could barely breathe. "Elira?" She smiled. "Dinner time?" He laughed, a broken, joyful sound that came from deep inside. It was what he'd said the night they met. The words that started everything. He stepped closer, afraid she might vanish if he touched her. But she didn't. She reached out, taking his hand. Warm, real, alive. "How?" he whispered. "You were gone. I saw you. I crossed the light," she said softly. "My body ended, but my essence traveled through the energy I sent to the stars. Your world's gate held a copy of me. My pattern, my memory. I followed it back." Ethan stared at her in wonder. "You came home," Elira nodded. "Home is not a place, Ethan, it is a person." She smiled faintly, her fingers brushing his cheek. "You gave me something my world never had. Kindness." He held her close, and for the first time in weeks, the emptiness inside him faded. Around them, the soft blue light shimmered once more, gentle, protective, full of life. But high above, in the cold dark beyond the clouds, something else stirred. A small shadow moved against the stars, watching. Its metallic eyes glowed faint red. Elira looked up, sensing it. "The Dominion will try again." "They always do." Ethan met her gaze. "Then they'll have to go through both of us." She smiled, her eyes bright. "Together we are stronger than they can imagine." He took her hand firmly. "Let them come. We'll be ready." The night sky glowed brighter, as if hearing their promise. The light from above reflected in their eyes. Two souls. One human, one alien, bound not by war or fear, but by something deeper, hope. As they walked home side by side, the blue light followed them like a living star, whispering softly in the air. And somewhere far away among distant galaxies, a voice echoed through the void. She chose Earth. Ethan looked at her, smiling gently. "Welcome home, my alien bride." She smiled back, eyes shining like twin moons. "It feels good to belong." The wind carried their laughter across the quiet streets. Above them, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if the universe itself was listening, remembering the night when a lonely man went to buy dinner and came home with a love that came from the stars.